It's been a while since I made a video. It's the end of July. Time to start planning for Halloween. So this year I decided to make a stone archway to go around my door. Now I'll show you the methods I used to change this doorway into this. And now I'll show you how I did it. I've cut a sheet of 9mm ply into strips, which will form a U-shaped box to go around the brickwork. The ply is going to be coated in 25mm insulation board. We'll remove the foil backing from it, and then we can carve into that and make it look like stone. I've made all the box sections. Everything fits perfect. I've made it in 5 sections so it's easier to store and carry. So we've got the top piece, and then each side's made up of 2 lengths. Now the fun starts, because it's time to start gluing on the insulation board. I'm using expanding foam to glue the insulation board to the ply. I've done the 2 sides, so I've just had some foam onto here like that. This is the same process for all 5 sections. Glue them in place, clamp them down so that foam doesn't expand too much, and let that set for about an hour. While that's setting, just fill up any little gaps with the expanding foam, because that can be sanded down later. We marked out all the stone sections, so I'm going to use a Dremel with a cutting bit set to about 5mm to cut out the mortar joints between each block. If you go too deep, you'll start burning into the insulation, so I'll stick to about 5mm. I'll just go along every line, just marking them out like this. When doing any work like this with foam, always wear a respirator. Get rid of all the dust. Using a small hand rasp, we'll just go over all the corners, rounding them off now. I'll go over all the surfaces as well, just to rough them up, make them so they're not even. Now it's time to paint it. I'm using a grey masonry paint, and I'll be giving this 2 coats. Everything will have 2 coats of paint to seal it all. While the paint's drying on the other sections, I'm going to finish off the top section. On this, I've used some 3-inch insulation board to make some of the mouldings. I'm going to put a date on the centre stone. I'll draw that out, and then using the same cutter in the Dremel, we'll cut out the numbers. Clean that off, and now I can glue on the other sections. That's the time to dry now. So shape it all, make sure it's all nice and smooth, and then any little bits that we've got gaps, we can just put a bit of filler in. I want these quite smooth. I want this to look like one piece, so any little gaps, can just put some expanding foam in, let that set, and then sand it flat. It'll just look like one continuous piece of stone then. I've carved out the centre plaque. We've got writing put in there. So it's time to glue that in place. That's going to fit here. So again, we're just using expanding foam to glue into place. Again, we're going to clamp that down, leave it for about an hour to set, and then we can just go over it again and sand it. So I'll clamp that down, come back to that when it's set. It doesn't need a lot of pressure, it's just a case of stopping it from expanding. Can now shape the top, trim off any excess, and then sand it and shape it, so round off all the edges. And the expanding foam that's grown, you just cut that off with a knife. I'm just using a little bit of sandpaper just to smooth off with some of the detail, to give it that little rounded edge. Go very lightly with the sandpaper, you don't need to push on because it'll just dig into it. So just very light movements, just to rub away from the top surface. That's one good thing about using this insulation board, it's very easy to carve and shape. I've just finished giving this its second coat of masonry paint, so I'm going to leave this to dry now. Everything's dry now, it's all had 2 coats of masonry paint, so it's time to start putting some detail into everything. I'm using my airbrush to put some detail. I'm going to be using 5 colours. We've got black, desert sand, dark earth, raw sienna and an olive green. I'm starting with black, so that'll go in all the mortar joints, any little cracks we want to highlight, any marks on the stonework. Slowly build up the layers. Next layer is going to be like the desert sand, which is like a yellowy colour, so I'm building that up in certain areas just to give some contrast to the stonework. This will be form like a shadow because most of this will be going over with the dark earth. I'm using a mix of dark earth and desert sand just to give another colour. The more colours you can add to it, the more realistic it'll look. Now I'm just finishing this off with just the dark earth now, just to darken up little sections of it. Finally, I've got a mix of raw sienna and the olive green, just to give us like a little bit of a mossy look, so some aged. Again, just picking off little areas just to darken them off with that. And carry on and do the other 4 panels the same. Every now and again, just stand back, have a look at it, see if you can add a little bit more colour to it. Don't add too much though, you want it to look as natural as possible. I've got some fake ivy laid down on the board. I'm just going to lightly spray that with some matte black paint, just to make it so it's not as green. Once that side's dry, I'll turn it over, do the back side of it. I've got about 6 pieces of this ivy to do. While the ivy's drying, I've made some LED strips. I've put connectors on the end so I can join them all together. So that'll put a glow onto the front door in whichever colour I use. I'll probably use blue. Right, my ivy's dry. I'm going to be attaching that with some little U-clips that I've made out of gardening wire and glue gun. It's got the ivy where we want it. We'll put a little blob of hot glue in and then hold it in place with one of the little U-clips. Push that through the hot glue. That'll just hold it when it sets then. Easy enough to push in with your fingers. That's the first section done. We've got another 4 to go. We make little gargoyles, a coat of masonry paint so they match the rest of the stone. Now I'm just going to age them with a bit of Mars black acrylic paint that's been watered down. I'm just using a little piece of foam to apply the black wash so I can rub it into the cracks and wipe away a lot of it. That's all the ivy done. It's all been coated with a matte lacquer to seal everything. Gargoyles all fixed in place. Decided I'm just going to add a little bit of ivy along the top of there so it matches the sides. There you have it, it all fits. It's taken about 2 weeks to make this. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll catch you on the next one.